Okay. Oh. Pull it back. Oh, on. Okay. Special video. Special video again. Let me put that in the way I want to say it. I have a bone to pick with the medical system here in Germany where I am, and I will fix that. First of all, I'm not a furry anymore. Like, I don't want the connection to the system, I don't want to involve them. What I'm doing is what I am doing. It's a great system to stabilize you. But I think at this point I have grown enough to be stable myself and not involve the system and might bring repercussions to that. So I distance myself officially from that. Next up, what's the main point? I am transgender, like I already said. And the first time I encountered that procedure that surrounds that topic, I was like, that's shit. That's shit. And I knew it was shit. But I was like, I will not just tinker with a social system randomly, because that takes resources, that takes time, that takes aggravation. So I kind of went through the process and it kind of goes back to my first video where I'm like, I'm kind of tagging along with things. Then I realized, oh shit, it's still shit. Like, I knew it was shit when I started it. And no, I'm not the only one that thinks like that. Basically, let's first look at it. Like, if you are transgender, first of all, you gotta prove to someone that you are transgender. Like, that is sold as a security feature. Like, maybe you're not transgender and you're making a mistake. Like, that's clearly selling into fear. Like, some people will need that. But it should not be proprietary. Like, that's a hard decision to make. That's a decision that requires a lot of responsibility. So that decision should be made by the person that has to live with it, which is me, or the transgender person, or you, or if you're transgender, you. That's the first thing. Then, here in Germany, like, it's great, it's paid, and there are reasons for that that I will come back to. I think I can tell you what I know, or seem to know. So then, first you get hormones. Like, first you have a trial period where you're like, okay, am I transgender? Let me live as a woman for a bit. And there are deep problems with that. Like, for that you have to define what a woman is. Like, woman is a big category. You can be a woman and not do all the things. not wear bras, not do makeup. And as a transgender person, you're like, well, then I do nothing. Like, the social interaction, if you're transgender, is the same. Like the psychological plane of interaction that is happening between females, which males usually don't recognize, the pattern recognition that is subsidized in the peer group dynamic of the gender. Like, if you're in the group, you know about that thing, or you will learn it pretty quickly. Like, it's not something you can't learn. Where was I? I got off topic. Okay, the state involvement. It seems to me there are multiple reasons for state involvement. First, the state does not like if people randomly change their names and appearance. Like, states are in the business of tracking people. They are giving IDs to you and categorizing you. So if you change your name and your appearance, like, that's shit for them. Or then that's not the only reason. Like, they can kind of track that. But let me think to make this clear. This transgender route is something that was explored, like those medications were not made for transgender specifically. Those were people trying them to get to somewhere, or just testing it route. And now, after years of testing and development in that field, the state is like, okay, and it's a completely normal process in societies. Now the state is like, well, that route seems to be establishing, which goes back onto the Christian church having this whole sex area closed off for centuries. And now it's open again, and so new formations spring out of that. And I was coming from... So this road is open, it's growing. Like, the state cannot ignore that. So it's kind of like, that is there. So we let people go through the through the therapeutic process and observe and note what works and what doesn't. So that the therapists and psychologists in the future have linguistic tools to work with these people and understand which medications and general environment variables are necessary or applicable. But there are multiple reasons. States are really complicated. And there is a whole thing with this. Like, if the state pays for it, like, you need a certain diagnosis. You need to be transgender, it's type .1 or .0. Else they will pay for nothing. Like, they have a certain category that is kind of acceptable. And you will still have to fight for everything. Like, they have an interest in this route being explored because the state is kind of, and if I say state, I mean the worldly formation, the three-dimensional people and social groups which represent the decisions of the country peer group, of the overego of the country, which is making decisions, which is interacting with other country groups and the overarching unconscious or humankind peer group, or whatever word I was saying before that. You get my point. Where was I going? Where was I coming from? I will go to get that far for now. So basically, that decision should be the person's decision. Why does the social group have the decision? Why do I have to prove I'm transgender? Why can't I go and just do that? And in my mind, it's that people are afraid of new things. Like the whole transgender thing, we could put that into, how was it called? Into biohacking. We could, like, it's biohacking, basically. But biohacking has a lot of legal problems. So there's kind of the synthesis of this social construct that was built to sell it. Like, normal people are informed by certain data streams, which is the news, which is the newspapers, which is the social media feeds, which basically are all run by the same companies, which kind of package the same sort of information. And that package of information got an add-on of transgender to familiarize people with it, because they are afraid of new things. So basically, if I go, I will do biohacking, I will do that. And people will go like, but that's dangerous. Don't you know danger? And I will be like, yes, I know, I will still want to do it. And then you have this conflict of people being like, but I can't imagine it. Like, people can't think over the boundaries of what they are familiar with. And if they can't imagine they're doing that, they won't allow you to do it because they are scared. So we have this whole propaganda engine that was set into the main data stream to get people familiar with it and get this kind of synthesis of the state and the data stream and the public to kind of make that happen, which is not a bad thing, don't get me wrong. It's a great system. It's just the decision. Like, you gave the control of the individual away for safety, which is a stupid idea. There was a great quote about this. Like, if you give control away for safety, it's mostly a stupid decision. Often. It's like IT security. Or let's go from safety to convenientless, to something convenient. And then the analogy makes sense with IT. Like, it will be less convenient to have a secure system, because you will have to take more steps to do the secure option. But like, it is more responsible to have the secure system, but it's also more work. But if you don't do it and you have an occurrence where you would need it, well, you're fucked because of convenience, and you can't change it afterwards. Like, giving away that decision of the individual to the state is a bad idea. And what I will do now, I am the artist, and I claim the shamanic tours, and I will go and do a system test. What does that mean? The problem here in Germany is that to be a therapist in that space, you need a license where the institutions paying for that agree to you doing that. Like the therapists and the institutions, the institutions give licenses, a certain amount of licenses which people can claim, which therapists can claim. So what happens? They give out way less licenses than the market needs, and here at the therapist level, these licenses are sold for a high price. So basically, you have a market dynamic where it's lucrative to keep a short supply, to keep prices up. Where was I going with that? Like, if I look at the system, that's a problem. Besides, like, it's part of that giving control away. You're dependent on that higher structure, which is most likely corrupt because it was set up a long time ago and no one really checked on it. Like, with normal people, they will just go and they will follow the system and not complain. But now that I have kind of go through the system, like, I wouldn't go to a therapist. Like, I can fix my own systems. I don't have a need for that. Like, it's cool, and like, if you have the opportunity, just take it with you. Why not? But like, how do I say that precisely? I will do a systems check, which means I will go to Amsterdam, by Amsterdam, because there's a port, there's trade, there's money. I will get resources, I will get some force, get back to the medical system and tap on some people's shoulders. Like, how do I say that? It's an old societal function. If something like that happens in a system, a shaman or artist can go and look at that system and hit it with some force, some alchemical force, which is not really scientific, but get a better definition of your choosing. Basically, a kind of entropy which develops through interactions by a person, which kind of follows them like the parts of a comet that kind of break up and follow it, and kind of give that thing which follows it. If you imagine the artist as the comet, and the artist hits the structure and changes things there, that whole entropy that the person carries with them hits the system with that intensity. So I will build up some entropy and fix that, not fix it, but first of all look at it and analyze it. And if there's something to fix, I will fix that. Like, how do I say that? It's really hard to explain. it's like you can't just go and fix the counter argument would be you can't just go and fix a system, a social system like that. And the answer to that is yes, I can. I am the artist. I have the shamanic tools going back centuries. I have the tradition to do that. And basically go, those structures of reality which are built there are not working like they're supposed to be. So I, as a part of reality, of a bigger structure, will go and do something about it. And that is something which projects enormous aggravation onto the individual. It's like you take the responsibility of that archetype onto you, and by that you also get that function. What else do I want to say? And that's certainly not a safe path. And what we are dealing here is like a sub-function or a main function of the unconscious. Like you have the whole over-ego of the group, which is doing things. Like it has a system here, a system there, and as artists you're part of some system. And that system has the functionality of restructuring these things, of analyzing and restructuring reality, like artists. You know what artists do, or shamans do. So basically, if the over-ego notices there's something wrong, it will propel the individual, or individuals, plural, maybe, it depends on the situation and the individuals, by an unconscious drive or occurrences to serve that function which relays that higher purpose of the over-ego. So, how do I explain that? So there is a personal ego journey in that, but it's based on a deeper level substructure. It is as a function of the overarching structure of the society. I'm trying to make an analogy with a body. Give me a second. You can use the archetype of the mechanic. Like if you have a world made of mechanical things. Let's say this medical system is a mechanical structure. Then there will be a mechanic going around sometimes like, that's not how it's supposed to be. I will get some tools and fix that. That's the function. And that's a dangerous game. And there's like a psychological openness to experience if you go by the ocean model, which is the current one, which also has its how do I call it? Not uncertainties. I'm looking for the mathematical definition. Which has its incompletenesses, going from Gödel's incompleteness theorems. Like you can't have a set that is a set of all sets. Like I'm totally lost in that, where was I? So there is a kind of genetic precondition for that, which is openness to experience, which is kind of linked to creativity, which is linked to intelligence. Like you have this ester of genetic survival strategies in the market of culture, of reality, of nature. And that's a high risk, high reward strategy. As far as I know, of course, I'm talking from what I know. Who else? Just, like I'm me talking. I represent me. Like basically, that's a high risk operation. But like the people that kind of tend to be in those places have the psychological substructure to be in those places. Like, it's like business. To do business, you need to be faster than your competition, you need to be creative, and you need to be careful. So you need to be really adaptable. Because it's like a high, how do I call it? A high execution time market. Or endeavor, or you get what I mean. No, I don't want to define it like that. A high volatility and option market. Like a stock market. And where was I going with that? I already get lost. Like, that's not a new structure. That's an age-old structure. That kind of thing has been happening since the beginning of culture. Like, culture didn't come from nothing. We built culture. We built those systems. And the people that built those systems kind of had this role of system builders to make it an object. And the system builder object is a genetic object. Like an object trait was given through generations. And families through time were breeding specific genetic strains. So that system builder object strain was kind of given through the generations and still has the same purpose, but now at a bigger level because the structures are bigger and more complex. And as far as I know, there are some variants to that. Like genetic material, like information or stories are given, and I'm not 100% certain on that, are given through intervals of 2. Like, you probably have the genes of your grandparents more than of your parents, because it's way more certain that information survives if you only give it to the next and next generation, because you're basically skipping one generation and thereby lowering information degradation. It's like stories were also given from the grandparents to the children of the children because of the same problem, information degradation. It's just more efficient to do it that way, and information does not fall apart as easily. What else do you want to say? What is there to say? This is a really interesting video. I went over the main structure, over the side structures. I went over the state involvement, the personal decision, the giving away of the decision. I went over the genetics, the personal psychology, the historical context. What else is there to say about this? I distanced myself from the structure which stabilized me. What would be the end result? For me, I personally will just take the side route. Dying. Like boys dying. Which means I will just get the hormones, I will get the money and do it myself. Because fuck you. I can. Like this whole operation of I'm a good child. Do you believe I'm a girl? Yes? Then give me the shit so I can ignore you again. Like, no thank you. Like, I tried that game. No thank you. I will rather do it that way. But other people still need that system to work like that. But there is still this problem of the interaction of the public and these state functions which are between that bureaucracy. So I will kind of do both. I myself will be doing it on the side way and still hitting and testing the main system. Like, I know people have problems with that. Like, I have problems with that. And there are deep, serious reasons for that. So I will do a systems check. And a systems check will make people really afraid. Because they know everything that is not needed, or not where it's supposed to be, will be carried away. The system will be kind of like you have some old mechanical thing and you clean it and all that rust goes away. But with that rust, some mechanical parts go also too. Like someone put a bridge in there because it wasn't really working, so they kind of built a side road. It kind of works, but they didn't really have the time or effort to fix it in the right way, so they kind of built a side bridge. And like, people are used to these side bridges now. So if you come at the system and go like, that bridge shouldn't be there, I fixed the main thing, that bridge goes away, that will disturb the system. That will break normality for that system. And patterns will have to reorganize forcefully. With the force of the system itself hitting itself and kind of interacting in its own sub-functions. How to explain that? It's like you're using a command line tool to edit a database. Like, usually the database does what it does, but you're kind of using a tool to change something. So I will do both. because I personally have an interest in doing that journey. And on the other hand, like, its system is shit. And everyone that sees the system knows, okay, that's shit. But I don't have another option than to go through that system. Because, like, it's the easiest option. The less risky option. How do I say that? I kind of have the tools and the know-how, the the personality to go and do that. Not because I'm some special expert, which would be an appeal to authority, which we don't do in that space. Like, we are fixing systems. We set the appeal to authority up. So that will not work. Why would it be valid? I put it there. I know where it comes from. Like, what? It's like therapy. Like, you have these people making a claim to authority when they are clearly sitting on a paradox. Like, if the mind can understand itself, if the mind had the brain capacity to understand itself, it couldn't understand itself. Like, because it's self-referential. It's a paradox. Like, do I need to explain that? How do I say that? I'm searching for a great analogy. Like, if you have a triangle, and that triangle is trying to analyze itself, and with each step it analyzes, it will give part of itself away through that process of analyzation. So if it has completely analyzed itself, there will not be a triangle anymore to analyze, because it has given itself away for analyzation itself. Like, it's a paradox. The mind can't have the capacity to analyze itself. Like, it can analyze itself. That's not the question. But, like, how do I say it? It's called incompleteness theorems. There will never be a set of sets. So claim to authority like that can never have that validness. It is claiming. Like, that is a good claim for people that don't know better. But it's kind of useless if you know the substructure. What else is that to say? Basically, you know what I will be doing. I will collect some force, do a systems check, do my own journey. The reasons for that are laid out in great depth now, on multiple levels, from multiple sides and angles. That metaphysical multidimensional object is kind of complete. I will do it in the function of the artist, with the sub-functions of the shamanic tradition. I will also claim the investigative, journalistic, social number plate, or how do I call it? Indication plaque, or authorization flag, so I can document everything. Like, if you do that, you will do things that are normally not allowed, because you are working with systems behind the systems. Like, normally you shouldn't be there. Like, you could change things which do a lot of damage. So there's kind of a fear around that. It's a bigger topic. So basically, I claim those sub-functions. How do I say that? It's like with hackers. It's a clipboard. It's a metaphysical clipboard. Like, with clipboard, you can basically walk in anywhere. With a clipboard and a reflector vest, you can basically just go in somewhere in. Like, no one will question you, because you have the authority. In the same way, I use the social definitions as clipboards, because I have a function to do there. And that goes back onto how language works. I don't want to go too deep into that. I think that this video is kind of complete. For now. Well, yes, that's what I'm doing. Thank you. Bye. I hit button.